Welcome to Hospitality on the Rise, the podcast about the people shaping the hospitality industry and their journeys. I'm your host, Alice Cheng, founder and CEO of Culinary Agents, hospitality's go-to hiring platform. And I'm here to give you your dose of virtual mentorship. Here, we'll be sharing the stories, lessons learned, and advice from hospitality leaders who've carved out their own path to success. After all, this industry is where many get their start and go on to do incredible things. Whether you're a pro, starting out, or just love the hustle, this podcast highlights what makes hospitality extraordinary: the people. So excited to have Chef Stefano Secchi. Did I say that right? Have I never said that out loud? With us today. Stefano is the chef owner of Fai Bravo Hospitality, which includes Rezdôra and Massara, amazing restaurants here in Manhattan. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Stefano, thank you for joining us today. Welcome.
We've known each other for, since you first started too, right? So
Yeah.
a while. It's great to be here. Thanks
For
for
many years, and it feels like even longer than that in the best possible way.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Mostly at events where we see each other and we both had like a few glasses of wine.
Exactly. Ironically, I feel like this might be the first time we're actually having a full-blown conversation, so I'm looking forward to it.
We feel full
Um, But you, me, and 2.4 million people. But so Stefano, how did it all get started?
All right. So my parents brought me up in this business, right? And they immigrated from Europe. My dad's from Italia and my mom's from England. And like their whole thing is that we're coming to the States. We don't want you to be in restaurants. And it's so strange because like this becomes like a through line for a lot of, second generation, cooks, chefs, restaurant workers. But, I'm a restaurant guy. I love it. I was brought up and at one point was like, maybe I should just do something else for a little bit and see, but I missed it too much. And so I said I was 12 years old when I first started cooking. And my dad's first chef was from Campania, Calabria border. And so I grew up eating a lot of the food that Massara is based on. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
You grew up in literally like core memories, running around, probably hiding under tables, and
yeah,
picking the gum off and whatever, right?
yeah. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like we would go to school. We would be picked up. We'd go right to the restaurant. I would always have a piece of two people. We have two cakes that my dad always had. It would be either Black Forest cake or crocantino. And so I'd always get a slice of that with my brother. And then we'd be at the restaurant until like 5:30 when my parents would go home. They would change for service. And then I would stay there and we would be like, I mean, I was making dinner for my brothers for forever, right? Like they would go back to work and then we were left, to our own devices.
To your own device.
That's also good stories too. We bring that up one day. That's a book, probably. But
Yeah. So, and you said you really started cooking at just 12-ish, you said. Was that at the restaurant or did you go work somewhere else?
so so we used to spend, 4 to 5 months every year in Italy and then the rest of the time a year in the States, going to school. But everything started over there, and people say it's the cliche, like with your nonna, but it's very true. My dad was one of 8. So I have like,
Oh, wow.
you know, you know, I don't know, 10 cousins. I had like, like 14 aunts and uncles, all in Italia. And so like when we talk about the tradition in Italy of everyone coming to eat together at the table, that those things still exist, right? And so I was super young, but I would help Nonna, Zia Nicoletta, Zia Quirica, Zia Anna, Zio Tomino to just put together all the food. I was something, that really fired me up. My family has a farm in Sardinia, so it all came from there, right? And that's kind of how it started. But yeah, I was cooking in my dad's restaurant in the way beginning. After school is kind of how like, I mean, you know,
As you do.
you're
Yeah.
you're like so tired from school, and then you have to go when you have service at night, and plus we're like, oh, we're gonna call CPS on you guys.
And
It's unbelievable.
and that's amazing. I mean, that's very true, I think, with immigrants in general here in the United States. And we hear this really often where, the parents always want something different, that like they're like, we worked so hard this way so that you didn't have to, type of thing. And then they see their kids kind of, be like, well, you instilled this passion in me, so it's your fault, basically, in the best way possible.
What about you? Like, how did it start with you? Like, you tell me like what I mean. I'm gonna flip the script.
I see what you're doing here. It's very smart. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm second generation as well, and my dad was really into entrepreneurship and technology. So
Cool.
not on purpose I ended up this way, but I could definitely draw the lines and connect the dots now. But yeah, I worked in hospitality when I was younger, and then I loved it, but it wasn't the career. It wasn't, that was the thing that I was doing for some side money and just loving it in a hotel catering department, as well as a restaurant. And I went to work at IBM for 13 years in technology at
Mm,
a large company that even my grandmother would recognize.
cool.
But I started in the mailroom, worked my way up. So the equivalent of maybe like starting as a dishwasher or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Navigating my own career path in a very unconventional way, and always loved hospitality. And my friends in the industry were using, subpar tools to navigate their careers. And they were so hardworking, so much passion. I
Yep.
loved it. I would have dinner with them at midnight, like
100%. Yeah.
back in the day when I was young enough to be able to handle dinner at midnight. And I just loved it. And it just really, really, really bothered me that this industry made up of such amazing people that just dedicated their time to making other people happy
Yeah.
and serving others, were lacking the tools to help themselves. And this was a beautiful career path and opportunity that I think was being missed. And I was like, I need to take some technology and like slap it together and
Cool.
see if I can help. So anyway, that's my whole story.
Yeah, that's cool. Amazing.
Back to you, because this is about you, not me.
I've never actually heard that, so it's great to hear that. Now we're having this long overdue conversation. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. Thank you. So yeah, we're 13 years in, right? And that's oftentimes how certain things start is like you try to find a way to couple your passion and your love and what
Yep.
drives you into a career, into something, can you solve problems? Can you introduce something, a different type of cuisine, a different type of style, something? Can you introduce that to people and kind of make a business and a living out of it?
Yeah.
Right. And that's like the magic kind of combination. And so many of folks in this industry are striving for that. Like, what's your voice? What do you want to bring to the table? And how can you parlay that into a business that grows, and you can
So
support
true.
yourself and your family? So you did go to school for something other than cooking, did you?
Yeah, I mean, so it was both. So I was 17 out of high school. I went right to CIA. I told my parents, I was like, listen, I'm gonna cook. I mean, I don't care what you guys pay. Like, I'm gonna cook, and they're like, fine. I applied to one school out of high school. I went to CIA, and like back then I don't know if it was this, it was kind of hard to get into that point, and you had to have like experience in the business and all the things. And so I flew up to New York, and so you're super impressionable at that age. And I'll never forget. I landed in LaGuardia, and I was just looking at the skyline. And I'm like, oh my god, this is unreal, right? It's you can't describe that to someone unless they've done it, right? Like everyone in their life should live in New York City for at least one year. It's just magical, right? And so I was super impressionable at that age, and I went right up to CA, and like we would spend the weekends in the city. We would take the Metro North, down, um and CIA was great. I mean, CIA was like the first time in my life I'm sit in school and like be pretty bored. I like most of the topics, right? And it's the first time in my life I was sitting in school and like my notebook was full of notes, right? We would sit in class and like whether it be like skills, that's what it's called. It's now like called fundamentals or fundies, I think, or something like that. And like go through all these like kitchens, and it was insane. And then the funny thing is with CIA, there was nothing to do. So we started like a small fraternity on the side, and we threw huge parties as well. And I mean, that's a whole nother probably podcast.
Yeah.
We get into that really.
Show number 2. No.
Like it was CIA was amazing. And then I externed at Flydia, and I worked in the city for a year. And my parents were like, our part of the deal is you have to do corporate America for at least a couple years. And so I went back down to Texas, and I got an undergrad degree in like a regular university, right? And I was working with my family at the time, and going to school and going to college, and all the above. And then I did that thing. I did like the 2 year, kind of corporate job or whatever. And I like missed cooking more than ever. Right. And it's a very tough because there's a lot of people in life that don't really find that thing that kind of like makes them tick, right? And
Hmm.
usually it all becomes about the paycheck at the end of the week and like this or that or like your expected path in life because your family did this. And I felt like I was lucky that I do something that, yes, hard at times, no question, but this is an amazing industry, and then you work with amazing people and people that are working really at a very high level, and it's super satisfying, extremely satisfying. And I just feel like I'm lucky that I was able to find that something that really gets me up every day where I don't feel like all I care about is a weekend.
Yeah, yeah. So, for somebody who may not have the means or opportunity to go to CIA or formal school, what advice would you give them if they're like, I love it, I want to give it a shot?
By the way, we never had the means either. I mean, I have to probably preface that in that like I asked for everything. Like I asked for as much scholarship money as I could get. I applied for every grant, everything.
Yeah.
My parents didn't pay for any of that, right? And so like, um,
And that's smart because I'm gonna segue a little bit because actually Culinary Agents we for the second year in a row, we actually give scholarships at the CIA specifically. Because we want to do whatever we can to help with this next generation and just be making it more accessible. But that's for any school, right? There
yeah,
are a lot of resources.
yep.
Figure out how to piece it together, right?
You should ask questions. Ask questions. I was talking to the missions officer, and she's like, "We have all this money that was unclaimed last year." For instance, I was like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna ask for everything." And I didn't know like because I was like my parents I was never given anything, so it was always like, what can you do to kind of whether it was work grant or like scholarship money or like they wanted to there's all sorts of things that you can do to where you can lessen the burden, right? And I mean that's you just gotta ask, really.
Yeah, I like it. Ask and figure it out. I mean, these days there's more tools than ever, right?
Yep.
Ask ChatGPT. It'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly. It's important now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you're done with school and now you're like, was there a natural like, "Hey, I'm gonna go work with the family restaurant," or how did that go down?
There's gonna be people on this that are like listening to this, and they're gonna be taking their head that it's extremely difficult to work with family. I mean, word player, extremely difficult to work with family. And and you also it's very hard to leave work at work when you're working with your family even more. And these are people that like, raised you, right? And so I have a great relationship with my parents, thank God. My brothers as well. But I'll tell you that I never thought that I could fully do what I wanted to do if I had always worked with my family. And so it was a very short period of time. I did, but it was, it taught me a lot. I mean, you used to have to learn about the business as a side to just from like cooking. You have to learn about like where you have to keep your food costs and how labor costs should work. Like you have to learn about the things that keep the place open, right, and thriving. And so like that was a reality for me, very important, but it's very hard to work with family. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, getting exposure to those types of skills and learning in a way, I think is also something that, not enough people get exposed to when people are thinking about their career path and how do I get to the next step. Oftentimes it's like to make, especially back of house, if you want to open your own restaurant one day or be a leader, like there are non-cooking related things
yep.
that you need exposure to and understand. Um, so you're like, let me just pack up my bags and go back to the motherland or
Yeah, so it's such a good question because everyone always asks me this, what was it? And I was like, okay, well, I left like the corporate thing, thank God, right? Like I did the time for my parents. I left and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do two things. First off, I'm gonna go work in Santa Monica because I in Santa Monica. I'm gonna go work in Los Angeles because I've always heard about the produce out there, and I wanted to live in Santa Monica, and I got to as close as I could be to the Santa Monica Farmers Market. And then I would go there every Wednesday, right? That was like the day, and I was pretty blown away because it reminded me a lot of being, in places in Italia and all the veg and access to different types of veg and fruits and those things that existed in California. And then I was able to work with Nancy Silverton while I was there, right? So I would make
she's
lots of
great.
more. She's amazing. And I work front of the house there, so I could like learn how service standards work and like how things. Because I've been in the kitchen my whole life, and I needed to know how it worked with front of the house and like at a really intense place. with a person I respected, right? And so I was able to work pasta. I make pasta in the morning, and then I would just do, I would serve it. It was amazing. I learned so much about like up close on wine and like service standards, steps of service, and like in a high volume place that was doing things at a really great level with Nancy, who's just um, and so that happened for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then I was like, you know what, I just need to finally go back full time, and then so I just moved back to Italy full time. Everyone was like, you should go to Lombardia, which you have aunt and uncle that live in Milano. You should go to Piemonte, which you have cousins that live in Torino, or you have to go to Sardinia, which your whole family lives there. I was like, I'm not going to go to any three.
And so you picked what, Bologna?
So I picked Modena, and so
No, no, no.
I first visited Modena. I wasn't married at this point. I was dating a girl, and I had like nothing holding me back, right? And so I stayed in Modena in a hostel for 3 weeks. I ate as much pasta that I could. So I ended up eating as much pasta as I could, and ate at this really special place that I finally was able to get a reservation at, called Austria Giusti. And I incessantly asked them if I could come work with them, like over and over. At the end, Laura was like, per favore, tu devi smettere perché io, cioè, non ce la faccio più. Like, I can't do it anymore. And she was like, "If you stop bothering me, you can start in April." So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I lived in Italy for a total of 7 years, I think. Modena, and to fast forward, Laura taught me how to tirar la sfoglia al mattarello. So we used to just roll everything on mattarello without a machine at Giusti. We were only open for lunch 5 days a week, and we did 20 covers. And at night, I used to cook at another restaurant, as a seafood restaurant, a little bit outside of town, so I could make money because they weren't, you're just stodging over there. They're not going to pay you. So that was the thing, right? I was living in a hostel outside of Mola, a small town called Bajovada. I used to have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to get the bus there. I would arrive, listen to this, in Centro Modena. I would go with Laura to Mercato Albinelli. We would go pick up everything for the day. Like, she had every vendor for everything you could imagine. I think she hired me so I could carry everything back.
I forget. I was gonna say.
And
Oh my god, I know where this is going.
and we had such great conversation, and then but it was like, it was, you know, full immersion, right? And I am like, I was working, I would finish at the fish place at like 11:30 or 12 at night, and I would take the last bus back to Bajavada. Luckily, there was a hospital right near the hostel, so they still had a bus that late. And then I would do it all over again. And like, at that point, it was like 5 or 6 days a week, and I would only have Sunday off. And then that Sunday, I would go to like every acciaieria in Modena, and I just wanted to find like the best acciaias and like just kind of. But I didn't have a family in Modena, and for me, the thing that had changed me and wanting to be in Emilia Romagna is that I'll never forget this. I was 7 years old. We were driving from Campania up to go see my family in Milano. I stopped with my brothers and my dad. It was just us, and we had tortellini in brodo in a small trattoria outside. And like, I first tasted this with Parmigiano Reggiano, Grattugiato. I first tasted this, and I was like, man, this for me is one of the few moments in my life, and I've eaten so much food where like I will never forget what that tasted like, ever, right? And the dedication to Cibo Italiano and to like our culture and like pushing Italian food correctly in the right way forward in the States was like kind of like the mission from then on. And so yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I was like, I have no questions. I was just listening because I love. There is something about the Italian culture, the way of life, the food. I mean, you could see little like Instagram stories and reels about like how beautiful it is, whatever. But it is a whole way of life, and everything down to the ingredients and how even just conversation, probably strolling to and from, picking up all this stuff. Right? It's like one big experience. I love Italian food, Italian culture. Got married in Italy. I
Oh,
I think we joke around, my husband and I. I think we actually picked our wedding date around our reservation at Osteria Francescana
yeah,
because
because I'm sure I don't know if I was there when you went, but I mean, that was just
maybe. I was telling you, Chef Massimo, like the universal language of Sharpies is real. Let me tell you.
I love that you guys gave the Sharpie. That's such a great idea. It's such a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so true.
Um, so you were working at these two places. When did you make it over to that kitchen?
So I'd always worked kind of in like higher end kitchens most of my life, like whatever you want to call them, star kitchens or whatever, it doesn't matter. And like I had heard of a guy in Piemonte. I was working with another guy in the fish restaurant that came from a small village in Canale, just 10 minutes outside of Alba, right? And I actually went home with the thing with like what's the best way to put it? Like when I have dual citizenship, so it's I can work over there. That wasn't a problem. But like when you're still born in the States, then like you have like this automatic like I want to know about you in Italy, right? And so like you always have that thing going for you, right? And so like I made a lot of friends and that was great. And like listen, I had no one, I didn't have a car, and like I had no money, so I would always just go like over to friends' houses for the weekend or for like if we had a Sunday. And so we would drive, Alessandro's the guy's name. Alessandro and I would take his car from Modena and drive to Piemonte. One day, the fish place was closed for a private event, and we didn't have to work it. So we drove that Friday to Piemonte, and he's like, "I have to take you to Enoteca to see Davide Palula." And so we sat down, and I'm telling you, I had like one of the best meals of my life with Davide. And he had a star since he was 27, 28 years old. He had been in Canale, and he was cooking like Piemontese to a T, right? Contemporary, but like with a huge like focus on tradition. Pasta was very important, which is all things that like for me check the boxes. Plus, Barolo and Barresco were 15, 20 minutes away from where I was working, right? Well, I wasn't working there yet, but was from where they were. And so I was like, God, I have to find a way to work with this guy. And so like I'd worked at in Modena and Ticamocca and Giusti and at this fish place which is since closed. And I was like, David, like, what can I do? He's like, Stefano, just we have a space in 5 months. So I said, great. And so that's it. I lived on this guy's couch of his parents for like, for a year and a half, 2 years. We ended up finally getting a small apartment. We lived together. And I worked with Davide. And Davide was like, I mean, I was butchering whole lambs, whole goats, like doing everything super Piemontese. Like the difference between pasta in Piemonte versus pasta in Emilia Romagna is like there was more yolks. It was richer. You had this finesse because you had like the attachment to France, right? And so like when we talk about foie gras not being an Italian food, it's not true because it actually is found in a small place in a small village in Piemonte called Fegato Grasso, and it goes back to like something in the mid 1800s when the king and queen of Italy were based out of Piemonte. And so I learned all these things working with Davide and like kind of like soaking up to be in an area that wasn't really super well known to a lot of people, Americans, right? And so for me, this is a lot of stuff that was amazing because I knew about Emilia Romagna, like Lombardia and Milano and risotto from that area and also buco because of my aunt and my family. But to have like this full circle experience in Piemonte with like the classics there, but also have this amazing wine culture changed my life, right? And yeah, we would go to Brolin Barbresco every Sunday and just drink as much as we could. And
That's incredible. I'm going on vacation with you guys, your family. Our families are going travel from now on. We'll
um,
go to Italy with you. We'll
it's
we'll carry your bags. Let's go.
done. I became such good friends with people over Alice that like now the godfather of my oldest son is the winemaker at Malvira in Canada in a small village. And so, it's like full circle and Piemonte was amazing.
Yeah, and I'm loving this on many different levels because I feel like, and even I'll say specifically in the show, I'm not going to generalize this, but even with some of the past guests that we have, we hear these stories about showing up in Paris, like just going to knock on the back door. A lot of French, obviously, influences and just
Yeah.
trying to get in the door stage there. We don't hear as many of these stories for Italy. And so thank you for sharing that. I mean, this is like story time. I mean, we're gonna move to the advice, but we're storytelling right now. I like it.
It's great. It's you because I get emails from like young cooks that ask me through culinary agents sometimes too, right? That ask me these questions all the time. It's like, how do I go back over? And it's like, God, it's very hard. And I think it's maybe similar on the French side is that like when you do something like this, you have to give back, right? Because when we selfishly go over there and like we're like, okay, we're exposed for this for 4 months or a year, and then we're gonna take and then we're gonna leave, right? And it's like you have to start thinking about way in advance to even have the chance to work with these people in these really amazing spaces, how you can get back first, right? Because by the time they train you, you don't add any value because you're already gone, right? And so like I tell these guys, listen, it's hard citizenship. It's hard to get citizenship over there. It's very hard to find any way to make a living. But like, if you can save up enough money to live without making a living for a year and then go over there, then like, just tell these people, like, listen, I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to work for you guys. It'll take me 2 months to know how to run your whole line. If you're a professional, this is what you do. And then you tell them, like, I'll give you guys 8 months of like, however long. And then that's when they're like, okay, different story. Now we're in. We're like, no, no one wants to hire me. No one wants me to go. Yeah, it's because you gotta like, you go in there, you just take it and you leave. It's like, yeah, you gotta go back. It's so,
And I feel like they know that because it's like, over the years between just more exposure, more travel, more lifestyle, more people do I should say more of the inner secrets of how amazing, other cultures are and how Italy specifically, like everyone wants to go there and they want to experience and they want to do their thing. And so throughout this time while you're getting these amazing two questions. One is, are you like phoning home and being like, hey, you know?
my parents were like so in the beginning, so pissed that I did it. And they're like, you are taking like years of like earning power of your life, or like starting your life, like of doing these things to live over there. And you've been going there since you were a kid. Like, what are you doing? Like you're wasting all this time. I said, okay, I mean, and I listen, I get that point too. I get it. I mean, like, I just thought, yeah, I mean, would I call them up? Of course. And like, of course I missed them, but it was still also like, they were like, there was some animosity there because they're like, and you, like, this guy's lost. He doesn't, I mean, he knows so much about the cuisine already. Why is he going over there and spending all that time there?
Yeah, that's such a so now that you're also, a father, you probably can guess that when you were young, you probably gave him a hard time while you were traveling too, like, "I don't wanna go. Why are we here?" You know?
I only speak Italian to my kids, and I'm telling you, all I get is pushback from them all the time. It's unbelievable. I'm like, I didn't want to go. You're right. I didn't want to go to Italy. Like, I wanted to stay in the States because my friends were going to the pools. They were going to,
You're like, "Pasta again? Come on."
yeah.
Right.
I'm like, these guys don't speak the language I speak. Like, they're playing soccer. I'm playing basketball. Like, what is going on? I'm like, this just doesn't
"I
fit.
want hot dogs." Like
Yeah. And then Alice, you come back and you go back to school and all your friends have these amazing stories of summertime, and you're like, oh my god, major FOMO, right? Like you do any of that. You're like playing soccer on the streets like 9:30, 10 at night. No one cares. No one gives a shit about that. Like they're like, they don't talk about their climbing the pool or like they're like, like this person was this for we got a huge party. The parents came. Like we did none of that. And so like I was, yeah, there was a lot of animosity.
That's really okay, that was my first question. My second question is, throughout this time, are you thinking about like, "Wow, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm going to bring this back and do it my way and do something different
No,
in the States?"
no,
No, you're just enjoying it. I
I
mean, which
was.
is great.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but like I was like when I went back to when I got a call from Massimo, I was like, I'll probably just stay. I mean, I didn't have any. I mean, if like you really want to drill down, like I almost didn't have any desire really to come back. And then like, and life catches up to you and like, you think about like your family. And then listen, Italy is still it's a very difficult place for upward mobility, right? And I think that like we take this, I I don't want to get political, but we take what we have in the States very for granted, right? We take the fact that we can make a living and then we can save and that we can potentially buy a house later down the road or whatever. Like we take that for granted. And in Italia, and this is like just having so much exposure to that. If your family doesn't have a house and or something and or like some type of wealth or something saved up, it's extremely hard to do what I do, or to be a cook, or to be a chef, and to make like a living to where you can provide for, your family down the road. And like that ends up being for me, the thing that changed, everything. Is like, I'm just gonna come back to the States. And but I'm telling you, once I started working with Massimo, I was doing 6 days a week, 18-hour days there. This is like we were number three, I think, in the world at that point. And like, I don't, none of those lists matter or whatever, but I was in a place where like Davide Kitchen was very hard because it was old school, still very French as well, right? And like French, when I say that, it was run that way. And like it wasn't like you weren't coddled in those things, but when I went to go work with Massimo, we felt like it was like very much of a family environment, but you were held to extremely high standard, right? And so like I learned a lot from that, and that as opposed from looking like the reason why I hired me or let me to come on is because I could roll pasta mattarello. I could, I knew all about traditional Modenese food and cuisine, and I'd worked in like the best, trattorias and osterias in the city that he grew up in, right? And then after that, once I went to go work in that environment where like you were held to super high standard, but you still felt part of like a big team that was pushing everything forward. I was like, man, this is my gig, this is like, I don't, this is it. You know, I could have stayed in Italy. I could, all those things. And I was probably on the road to do that if you could see a light at the end of the tunnel. And that was the hard part, is that it's just very hard to make a living over there. Just it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you made the tough decision to come back. And now how did you open? You got two restaurants, so that's no easy feat in and of itself in Manhattan nonetheless. What was that like? You came back and you're like, I'm gonna do my own thing, or I'm gonna go work, or take me
So
through.
it's a good question. So right away, I came back and I was like, at that point, I was engaged, and I brought her because it's between Los Angeles and New York, and I brought her to New York. The reason why we chose New York, aside from being the best city in the world, is that it's also 6.5 hours from Italy, 7 hours from Italy, and I go back 5 or 6 times a year, right? And so like, and I principally chose, aside from that, chose New York because the best people in the world do what we do in this industry here. And I wanted to be around those people, right? Much like I was in Italy. And I wanted to be surrounded by the people that want to do this for a living and for the rest of their life, because I think it's an incredible industry. That's not going to change. I don't want to do anything else ever. Maybe I'll have little side projects here or there, but like, I'm obsessed with our work and our job and our industry. So when I first came back, um, I didn't go through Culinary Agents. I had like this recruiter came to me, and they had heard, like, 'cause I posted some stories, whatever, and like Instagram's a funny thing. These people would like reach out to me through DMs. At that point, they're like, "Oh, you're at that place, amazing. What are you doing next?" And like, I didn't really pay attention, but I got into the city and I messaged this one person back, and they're like, "Okay, let's come meet." And so, and they were putting me up for like executive chef and like executive sous chef jobs. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, you have all this experience in Italy. You like 6, 7 years in Italy. Like, language is just perfect. You're gonna be perfect for this restaurant group. They wanted. I was like, I want to cook again. Like, just let me get back on the line, because I remember what it was like cooking out of CIA and externship in the city. You know, you know, time had gone by, and I was in Italy for such a long time that I didn't know the rhythm again. In
You
Europe.
got to get back into the pace.
That's it. I just got back on the line, and I wanted to get back to cooking, and that's it. So I started cooking again on the line, and it was amazing. And I was at Maria. Michael White was there. It was between Maria and Garnishee Tavern, two places that I had a huge amount of respect for. Um, but I was like, what could I add the most to? And it was Cibo Italiano, and he's an amazing human being and a very good chef. And so that was it. And so I was on the line again, and it was awesome. And
Yeah. And then fast forward a little bit and you have Rezdôra.
which we had no money to build out. Everything that I'd saved my whole life went into that. Like, we had to find investors too, which is extremely difficult process. Because New York City needs another Italian restaurant for sure. And so,
They needed Rezdôra.
right.
They need your Italian food
And
now.
so, yeah, right. So maybe that at the time, no, people were looking at this guy who, like, they don't care. I mean, they find they've heard of this person or that person where you work, but it's just like, come on, like, I have to put X amount of dollars to invest in you and in this space, and the rent is so high here, and you have all this competition. Like, what's going to make you different? I was like, guys, you just have to kind of believe, and no one believed, and like we had so many no's, and um, yeah, I don't know. That's
Well,
what.
you got some yeses,
Yeah,
obviously.
it's. I mean, I'll tell you, Alice, we like the first 4 months, I didn't take a day off, and I was there like 4 in the morning until like 2 at close, and I would have a nap in between, hopefully. And we couldn't hire anyone because no one knew we were, and like people always wanted to work for a name, and like I didn't have that, and so it was just like I would go culinary agents, I would go like Craigslist, I would like talk to the culinary schools, everyone, and so we built out a small team, and then still in contact with those guys today. That did in the beginning of this. So
Yeah. Well, and the rest is history, right? I mean, what's next? You're currently in a temporary space.
oh yeah, yeah.
I know. Sorry, I'm not gonna poke at that. In a positive, I actually, from the outside looking in, it seemed like it was a kind of a like a really interesting best case scenario like situation.
Yeah, I mean, people should do like they should do like some 48 hours of like most stressful time in the restaurant business, and I'll tell that story. I mean, I,
Yeah.
don't- I mean, because I landed in Modena for a wedding of one of my friends who still works there, Francescana, and I turned on my phone and I had 45 text messages and like 10 missed calls, and like my stomach just sunk. I was like, God, it's one of two things, right? I mean, either there's been a death or like something bad has happened to the businesses or whatever, you know? And it was the latter. And I was like, oh God. And it was 9 in the morning over there. So it means 3 o'clock in the morning in the States. And I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do is just read through this, and then I'm gonna wait until we get to a reasonable hour. And I'll start making some calls. And yeah, we had a fire, and my PD went, and rightfully so. They like broke all these walls.
Look, everything.
Yeah, I don't know any other way to put it, but there's damage everywhere, and we had to close, and we had like 85 people that we work with because no one works for me. Like we all work together, right? And so like I'm like, holy shit, like what do we do? And thankfully, what is great about this industry that you don't see in a lot of other places is that people are like very like, okay, how can we help? And I had like four major restaurateurs on that 45 text chain or whatever reach out, and one of them I like was like really good friends with, and James was like one of my best friends when he was around, right, in the industry. And so I reached out to Preeti. We'd known each other really well for a long time, and Kelly and my wife and James and us used to go out to eat um, back in the day. So I've always been close with those guys. And when that awful day happened, like last year, I was like that. I was like, it was me and a few people that were like, what can we do right away, right? And so we stayed close, and they're just like, we have this thing, maybe you want to look at it or whatever. And so we just turned this term sheet around in like 3 days. And I was making calls from Italy, and like we'd have edits.
This is incredible.
It was insane, but like I don't know any other way to put it, that like this could probably only happen in this industry. I
Yeah.
don't something like
And
that.
for those, I'll fill in the blanks here because it is. I agree with you. I think this is one of the beautiful things about this industry and this community is that people do, everyone's busy doing their own thing and everyone's all over the place. But when it comes time or something happens, everyone's the first to drop everything and say, "How can I help?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do?" And get creative about it. But I'm excited, and I know this isn't going to air, timely, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm excited to pop into the pop-up, or the temporary space, while things are getting, sorted at your other space, at the, Old Time and Tide spot on Park Avenue. So, I'm glad it sorted itself, and totally by complete happenstance, I have you and Danny on a panel with me
Oh,
next week,
amazing. And he's great
which is
too.
I was like, "Wait a second, this is great." Um, But we won't go into that there, but I thought it was just another example of just, small world, big world type of situation. But on that note, we are going to go to quickfire. What advice would you tell your younger self?
Good question. It's just don't rush it. I think more than anything, and and appreciate the journey more so than like only focusing on the end goal, because the journey is what has been the best part so far.
What's your advice for someone struggling in the industry?
Do something else and then see for a little bit and then see if you want to come back, because listen, every job is hard. It doesn't matter. I mean, you could be selling insurance in front of an Excel sheet all day and having to make calls all the time, right? Every job is hard. And this job has, difficulties. Of course, others don't, but it's becoming a place where like people, even in what used to be white collar work, want to come and do this now. It's still blue collar, right? You still work with your hands, but the life is much better than it was when I was coming up. Things are much more manageable. You can have a work life balance, even though it's very difficult for me to say that. But I think that's it. Like if you're having struggles, do something else and then see what the world has to offer. You know, I think there's a special kind in this industry, and I think that like they realize how much they miss it, and this is a place that is very rewarding to people that stick it out. To be honest,
What's your advice for fellow hospitality leaders?
I just never burn any bridges. There's like so much vitriol and controversy out in the United States of America right now, which is not the same U.S. that we grew up in, and it's sad to see, because to get perspective and live in another country and see how good we have it over here, um, and then to come into a place as a hospitality professional, whatever, or someone that owns this is just like, yes, it's I get the point where like you think this, you got to win here, you got to do that. Like at the end of the day, it's a very small world in what we do, and we know everyone, and it's like just leave on a high note, because hey, we have these things called boomerang employees, right? Like
Hmm.
I we've had 4 or 5 at Rezdôra already, because and at Massara, because we worked so well together beforehand. And then when they're like, I want to do something else, I was like, great. Like, you put your year in at least here. For me, it's a minimum of a year. And I will help you do whatever I can. I mean, I will go out of my way and like get, whatever I can. Just don't burn any bridges though. It's God, I say that over and over.
Yeah, yeah, and that's true. I think in many, many,
Yes.
many industries. So, on that note, Stefano, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know you got a
Great.
ton of things to do. I look forward to seeing what's next, and I have selfishly enjoyed many a delicious meal at both of your restaurants. So I'm looking forward to more.
Thank you, Alice, for Culinary Agents, which is now like I'm gonna do a little plug for you, is the benchmark right now. So you do a great job.
Well, thank you for that, and sign me up as your forever Sharpie supplier.
Yeah, because this guy is like, look, I have Stefano Secchi, do not steal.
I,
So if you'll send me a packet, that would be great, so I can take this tape off and put this one in the garbage finally. Because
consider it done. Consider it done. We'll see you soon.
Sure.
Thank you. Remember, success looks different for everyone in hospitality. No two paths are the same. If you have a leader or a topic you want to hear about, email media@culinaryaagents.com. Hospitality on the Rise is brought to you by Culinary Agents, connecting top talent with employers since 2012. Whether you're hiring or looking for your next opportunity, join us at culinaryaagents.com. For more inspiration, subscribe to Hospitality on the Rise and visit hospitalitycareerpaths.com, a free platform by Culinary Agents. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. And if you love this episode, share it with someone who could use a little inspiration.